Well, let's hope that never happens to yours truly.
Let's hope it never happens to
Let's
you
hope
when you're
this
10.
isn't the best days of my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go from that. You mentioned here right off the bat, John Ritter.
Yeah.
I don't know where we just went from Annie documentary to John Ritter, but I think that isn't a stretch.
Well, there's a similar point that I wanted to make about John Ritter too. In this,
Well, you said Swing Blade, one great film, John Ritter, got to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, you make the transition.
Okay. Well, the thing is Ritter was a person who struggled in the business for a long time, and he was in a lot of crap, But he was told, if you want a business, you got to keep getting your name out there. You got to keep being seen, So he would be seen in anything he could be seen in. And as a result, he was able to make a name for himself. He became a household name as an actor, even though he was known as a crap actor, an actor who was in crappy TV shows, who was in crappy movies. But he kept in there, and finally he got a part in one movie that I consider to be a classic before he died. And it's like, forgive all the crap he did before, because we can see he actually was a very good actor, He actually was qualified to be in Swing Blade, and in my mind, Swing Blade was a masterpiece of a movie, It was a classic. And his performance in that film was, he had a supporting part. He was probably on screen like 20, 30 minutes in that movie. It was a big part, and it was significant to the film. And he nailed the part. He did a great job. And it's like, it's like, way to go, John. He stuck in there till you finally got to do something good.
So the moral of this story is, if you're struggling, keep plugging away, and if you've maybe made it by 10, that doesn't mean you stop. You gotta keep plugging away.
Well, the thing was about these girls was the ones that did make it at 10, Sarah Jessica Parker was Annie. And she later went on to become a much huger star. And a lot of girls that were in there saw this as a stepping stone to being a bigger star later. And then most of them realized that, wait a minute, this was it. This was the big, this was the biggest thing I'll ever be in, And that's a lot to deal with, And for them, they always wanted to have that success again. You see what I'm saying? And for most of them, it was quite elusive. It's interesting because it's like, a lot of authors who will write a book, they'll win the Pulitzer Prize the first time. And then some of them, they want to win more writing awards once that's happened. And others they're like, oh my God, I can't live up to my own reputation. I'll just stop right here while I'm ahead. But for most people, it's like, once you've gotten, a taste of success like that, once you've won a Hugo Award, once you've won an Edgar or a Nebula or one of these awards, it's like, you're like, no. For a lot of them, it's like, I want to do it again. And I want to win as many as I can,
Yeah, and you're mentioning here with actors, movies where the actors were pushed too far.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nutty Professor, would that be the Eddie Murphy or Jerry Lewis version? Lawnmower Man and Phantom of Paradise. You mentioned something about, too far, too far.
Yeah, it's interesting because all three of those films, they seem as different as you could possibly imagine. But the basic theme of each of those films, even though I don't think they borrowed from each other, basic idea that you look at Jerry Lewis's character in The Nutty Professor, he's a guy who's kind of a wimpy guy who's afraid of everyone, afraid of everything, and he just doesn't want to have any problems with people, when he interacts with them. He just tries to, I don't want to offend you or upset you, so don't hurt me, okay? That's kind of the way he goes through life, but he still gets hurt anyway. And it's interesting because as you watch this film, at the beginning of the film, he's someone who's afraid of everyone. And then he's so traumatized, not just traumatized, but also the fact that he's taken this formula that's basically pushed him. It creates the same effect of like combat trauma, where it makes a person psychotic, it makes him crazy brave. And his character, he went from being afraid of everyone to being afraid of no one. That was an interesting transition. And I actually list The Nutty Professor as Jerry Lewis's hands down his best movie. And I listed it as one of the 100 best films of all time. And that's not a minor compliment from me because I know almost everything. Almost everything ever made or heard of, walked, crawled, or slithered. And Nutty Professor, it's got to be one of the best movies ever made, period. It's the best version of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story, even though they take great liberties with the story from the novelization. But few movies have moved me as much as that one film, The Nutty Professor, where I was deeply moved. And it's a movie I could watch every day and never be bored by it. And the thing is to me, watching Jerry Lewis switch, you see his skill as an actor, a dramatic actor as well as a comic actor in that film, to playing this buddy love character, this guy who's basically, let's not pull punches. He's an obnoxious jerk. He's a psychopath. He's a psychotic. He's a very unsympathetic, unlikable guy. He's a monster. But at the same time, look at it in a way to where you kind of pity the guy because you know why he's this way. So you kind of feel sorry for this psychopath. That to me, the fact that they pull that off is so amazing. And another thing I liked about the film so much was it's like, okay, in both characters, it's like he's too far to being a wimp, and the other character, he's too far to being a reckless, crazy person. And like there should be a happy medium somewhere for people between these two characters, but they never seem to quite find that. But to me, The Nutty Professor, it's like I could write a thesis on it. It's just so good. And the other ones I mentioned, The Phantom Paradise, this similar story about a guy who's basically kind of a wimpy guy who just keeps getting pushed too far by like these big corporate powers. And when they violate his rights, the police plant drugs on him and send him away to prison for a crime he didn't even commit. They basically stole his music and ripped him off. And they send him to prison. And when he gets out of prison, now he goes from being someone who wasn't afraid of anyone to someone everyone's afraid of now. It's kind of a similar idea. And it's the whole thing of, when you've been so badly traumatized and the thought of death or pain or the law is no longer a hindrance on your behavior. You're very dangerous and very scary very quickly. And it was interesting to see that scene where we see that transition in the movie, where there's this guy, he's a stage performer, and he's going to perform a song that the hero wrote, the main character wrote, who's now a psychopath, and he tells them that he wrote this song for this girl he's in love with. No one sings it but her. And he walks up to the guy in the shower, he takes the plunger and sticks it in the guy's mouth and tells him this, like I forget if it was at gunpoint or not. The guy's like, oh, okay, I won't see it, But it's interesting to see, now, the tables are turned. Now everyone's, even guys who are really tough are afraid of him.
So speaking of tables,